Hello everyone and welcome back to some more AEW on TEW 2020. We are the week before our big New Year's show, and we are beginning with AEW Dark. The VIPs Club, Tenille Dashwood and Deonna Purrazzo defeat Brandy Lauren and Ava Everett. Jeff Cobb defeats Austin Gunn. Chris Bay defeats Kip Sabian. Britt Baker defeats Janice White. Midnight Dynamite, that is the team of Fred Yehi and Davey Boy Smith Jr., defeats the smaller Dudleys. The Von Erichs defeat Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. Riho defeats Yuka Sakazaki. AJ Mendez defeats Thunder Rosa. And Charles Betts beats Matt Cardona. I just realized I forgot to book the D&D stuff. Again, it's a lot of just uninteresting stuff for right now. Just a little bit of combat. They end up ending the session by getting to the Dragon's Lair, but they have to end for the day. And, well, things will get interesting next week. Our show of Dynamite begins with Hikaru Shida defeating Serena Deeb in a little bit of a tune-up match. Afterwards, Kana comes to the ring. She sarcastically is clapping about Shida's victory. She says, for over 200 days, we've held that title, Hikaru Shida. For many, a reign that long would be considered quite the accomplishment, but I have my doubts. The women's division here in AEW is weak. There's so few legitimate challengers to be found here. I would even go so far as to say that these next few weeks against Kairi and Mayu are the only challenges you've ever had in defending that title. Nyla Rose, weak. Deonna Purrazzo, Tenille Dashwood, even together, they couldn't beat you. Some are saying that this is just proving how good you are as a champion, but I say that's because this division is weak. That wannabe idol and her zombie friend, they are nothing. No one in this division is anything. And next week shall be your first real test against Kairi Hojo. Next week, AEW will see if you are truly worthwhile of that title, and if you are worthy of a good match against me. So Kana, still asserting that she is the dominant force in the women's division, even though she's not really wrestled that much yet, but we know what she can do. After this, Chris Statlander defeats Big Swole. They don't click. Pretty poor rating. But afterwards, Maki Ito comes down to the ring as Abby was at ringside. She, right afterwards, comes into the ring, celebrates with Chris Statlander, and Maki just asks, what have you done with Abaddon? And Chris, she kind of looks confused, and she says, I want to tell both of you, Maki. You're always on a journey to be the best, to be the cutest in the entire world, and Abaddon was a lost, suffering soul trapped within the body of a human vessel. I freed both human and spirit, made you cuter. Why would you not want this? And Maki stamps her feet on the ground, she pouts, and she says, because Abby isn't the Abaddon I know. She kind of just sadly stares at Abby, throws a mic on the ground, stomps away, and Maki is real sad about her zombie friend not being a zombie. After this, Nathaniel Murphy defeats Marco Stunt after Brian Cage interferes, and again, more not clicking. Shoot, I had things in the wrong order. This actually takes place after the next segment. I booked this afterwards, and yeah. There was a backstage vignette of Matt Sydal in what appears to be a Zen garden. Sydal sitting on a tree stuff, he's meditating, he's softly speaking, basically he's doing an ASMR. Camera pans to show that Lance Archer and Jake Roberts are there, and they're trying to meditate, and Lance Archer, he's like, he's very visibly frustrated. He looks almost physically in pain with trying to meditate. And eventually he kind of just opens his eyes, stands up and says, this is bullshit. Matt Sydal, he's much more calm about opening his eyes. He says, it takes time to get used to, but we can reform you. I'm not telling you to completely abandon your anger, but Archer gets up, and he's trying to get away, and DDP stops him. DDP, he doesn't have a signing card because he's not officially signed. I just brought him in for this little cameo appearance. And DDP just says, listen to Sydal, Lance. Not Sydal, listen to Jake. he knows about being reformed. And Lance, he kind of grumbles, and he's like, alright, fine, sure, whatever. Sits back down, he tries to meditate, he still looks physically in pain. Again, this actually takes place after this segment, where Brian Cage is beating... Oh, wow, that's a really good rating. Brian Cage is beating down Marco Stunt after the match. You know, he's really just chucking him around. Jungle Boy comes in, he's trying to save Cage. Luchasaurus comes in to save Marco. Cage and Luchasaurus fight out a little bit. Jungle Boy comes out, he tries to make a save. Chris Jericho interrupts, he beats down Jungle Boy. Luchasaurus manages to get Cage off him long enough to stare down Jericho. Then Taz shows up behind Jericho, and he has a mic, and he says, your little buddy Jack there's got some problems with Jericho, huh? Well, lucky you, I've agreed to work with Jericho on New Year's. So how it's about a little bout between the Machine, Brian Cage, and Chris Jericho against you two little punks. I'd offer for Marco to get involved, but I think he's going to be out of commission for a bit. Cage is all up for it, I'm up for it, so how's about it? Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy look at each other, they nod, they agree to that match next week. Yeah. Essentially, like, I'm imagining that Brian Cage is really going, like, basically, he beats down Marco Stunt, Nathaniel Murphy's like, what the hell? Brian Cage is like, just pin him. And Murphy does, then Cage continues to beat him up. Murphy's long gone. Brian Cage keeps beating up Marco. He probably ends things by, like, chucking him completely outside the ring. Obviously, you'd have people out there catching him, but, you know, chucked outside the ring. Luchasaurus comes in, he fights, and, yeah. So, one of the matches for next week. After this, Renee Paquette is then interviewing Cody, and she says, like, hey, I don't really know what this interview is about. Cody just told me to come over here. And Cody says, Brody, I think you've officially taken it a bit too far. War requires honor. You've bastardized that. This isn't a war, this is crime. You went and abducted my wife, you went and abducted Jonathan's wife, you've gone out there and ruined everything good you had for you. You know what? Just having a normal match at New Year's won't be enough. No, we need to settle things once and for all. Brody, if you're not a coward, then face me in a steel cage match next week. No escapes, Brody. Just you and me. If I win, you're gone from AEW. You've messed with my family enough, and my mercy has run out. I have your answer today, no later, Brody. Go and find him, Renee. I'm done here. And so Renee's like, alright, sure, whatever. Cody's not happy with everything that's gone down the past 2 weeks. We have a commercial break, and then right after that, there's just complete chaos in the executive offices, almost like right next to where Cody's vignette was. Matt Jackson is on the floor, he's holding onto his knee, and Nick demands to know who attacked Matt. Rhodes tells him that he saw Kenny attack Matt. Nick storms off to try to find him. During one of the live events, Matt Jackson got injured for a month. He can still work at Angles, but he's just out for a single month. That does admittedly ruin my plans a little bit going ahead, but it's nothing major, so not really something to worry about all that much. Then, Charles Betts defeats Griff Garrison. And afterwards, Kurt Angle steps into the ring, and he has, he's wearing a suit, FTR is wearing a suit, he has a mic, and he says, Jericho, I took into consideration what you said recently about the state of affairs between us and your inner circle, and I'll have to admit, I'm a bit surprised about some of the things you pointed out. Sure that any match between Charles and Jake would be a technical mess class, although, of course, I'm sure Charles would win. And you definitely have some combinations of team that could give Dax and Cash a little bit of a run for their money, but there is still the problem of the women's division. So, I went out and brought someone in to shore up those numbers. AEW welcomed my newest client, Layla Hirsch. Layla Hirsch, she fits with the whole good wrestle guys thing that Kurt Angle's team has. She's, into the women's division with that. She definitely needs to be built up quite a bit, but it'll be fine. She was obviously unrated in this segment, but I do have faith that Layla Hirsch will be pretty decent. She's pretty young still. Good technical worker. She'll be fine. Then, Shawn Spears, Midnight Dynamite, defeats the Motor City Machine Guns and Dragon Lee. Just little something. Probably, you have some things going on where it's, they're trying to prove that, hey, Tully's not washed up. Hey, none of these guys are washed up. Take that, Darby. Whatever. Did I? I did not. Tully Blanchard's about to speak, but there's a cut to backstage where Jonathan Gresham is tearing through lesser members of the Dark Order. He's clearly enraged. He's probably yelling, where's Jordan? Where's Jordan? All that stuff, understandable. And eventually, Mr. Brody Lee kind of just comes up, delivers a huge lariat to him. Gresham lands on the concrete. He looks just out of it. Brody, he's still just, in a normal suit. Just kind of looks at the camera and is like, you want a steel cage, Cody? Well, you're on. So Brody Lee has accepted that the match be a steel cage match. After this, MJF defeats Matt Hardy with a Swanton Bomb. And then, he demands a mic after the match. And Wardlow gives that to him and says, Garza, you're really getting on my nerves. You have the gall to say that I'm wrong. You have the absolute audacity to claim that I'm not the best. That you're better than me. You know what? You've crossed a damn line, Garza. You've pissed me off. You know what? I'll admit, I've been a little bit out of focus recently because of your antics. So you know what? How about we settle this at New Year's? Me versus you. Hell, I'll even put my title shot on the line. If I beat you, you admit that I'm better than you. But if you win, you not only get my title shot for Revolution, but hell, I'll let you even have the entirety of my VIPs club under your employ. And then, Deonna and Tanel, they just go up and like, what the hell, MJF? You do not have three, you can't do that. The three of us are in charge, and we don't say yes to this. But MJF's just like, you know what, go away. I'm the real leader here. Garza then comes up, and he's surrounded by his Rose Garden. He says, you're really that annoyed by the truth, Maxwell. I thought you were better than that. I thought you were good enough to not let some simple words get under your skin. Well, it doesn't matter. I accept your challenge. Deonna and Tanel will make fine additions to my garden. Hell, even your dog Wardlow would serve nicely at my feet, but you, well, I can certainly have my uses for you. Plus the title opportunity? How can I say no? You're on, Friedman. Next week, I will prove that I'm worthy of going to Revolution to unseat Moxley and become AEW World Champion. Very nice segment. Then, apparently, Nick Jackson found Kenny Omega, and then they had a 20-minute match that Kenny Omega won. Afterwards, Moxley comes down to the ring. He squares up with Kenny, and before anything can happen, Adam Page's music hits. Page gets in between Moxley and Kenny, and, he's begging Moxley, like, hey, please try to bring Kenny back. Next week, do all that you can. Don't try to hurt him. I just want him to be back on the side of good. I miss my tag team partner. I miss the Elite. Moxley's like, I can't do anything about that. This is Kenny's decision. I'm not part of the Elite. You were, he was, your call. And eventually, Page starts pleading with Kenny, and Kenny, he's just kind of silent for a moment. He looks a little bit fed up, and then just super kick to Page. He stares down Moxley a little bit. He says, that probably, picks up the mic that Page had, and is like, you know what, that title next week is mine. Throws it down, walks out, and that ends the show. 71. I'm always happy with a 70-plus show. Next week's show is the New Year's. I'm hoping that goes really good. So, yeah. Looking forward to that mini pay-per-view. So, until then, see you guys later.